Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm a fetching minx.
And this week, we present an ordinary podcast with a sinister meta-commentary twist, with the 2011 horror movie, The Cabin in the Woods. Before we telescope our microphones out into big-ass bongs, remember you can help us on Mortified, the Legitimacy Quest by smashing that like and subscribe on YouTube, leaving us a review on iTunes, or telling a friend about the show. If it sounded weird there, it's because we updated our thing to not include the Spotify plug because we are no longer on Spotify because fuck all that. But yeah, that's why. But anyway, Leyla.
Aaron.
How do you feel about art that is about art?
It's fine. Most of the time, it's fine. Sometimes it's not fine. It's fine. Categorically, it's fine. What about you?
I think that'll be a larger discussion we have here in a second. But okay, so we watched this movie because we were looking for like a Halloween type thing to do. And I was like, oh, Cabin in the Woods, that's okay. Because I was like, I've seen that before. That's a decent movie. And I realized I hadn't actually watched it through the whole way. I'd seen the first exposure I had to it was Bob Vid's rebuttal of the CinemaSins takedown of this movie. So I was like, okay, that was like 2017. I want to say 2016. My first exposure to that kind of analyzing and trying to figure out what film criticism really looks like. So I really liked watching those videos. And I still have some fondness for those anti-CinemaSins videos in some way. It was a different era.
I just watched a bunch of like really old Sean ones that are rebuttals to CinemaSins. There's something satisfying about them.
Yes. I mean, that is how I got into BreadTube in some ways, is I was watching those CinemaSins ones, and then I saw Sean's ones, and then he starts taking down PragerU, and then now I hang out with a lot of transgender communists, so very weird, but... Anyway, but the only other time I had watched this movie was weirdly in the house of the granddaughter of a former Indiana senator, because we went to school with her, and she invited us over for a Halloween party one year. And as I do at parties, I was like, what's a thing I can do that doesn't involve a whole lot of interaction with strangers? And this movie was on, so I watched it, but like I didn't like fully pay attention. So there was definitely stuff about this movie I did not catch or missed like completely. So I knew how it ended. I knew all the twists and stuff, but there are parts of it where I was like, okay, this is maybe not as good of a movie as I remember everybody saying it was. And I think also, the fact of the matter is this, I think it is very much an artifact of the time, because it was directed by Drew Goddard, who, firstly, director of one of my favorite movies, which is Cloverfield. I love that movie. Would I call it a good movie? I don't know. We
had a fun time watching it for our book club.
Yeah, it's a fun movie, but I don't know that it's like capital G good. And also, this was written by Joss Whedon, which, if you plug in 2011 to that, it kind of makes sense, right? This is right before the MCU blows up in a major way with the Avengers in 2012. But yeah, I just think, in the context of meta-commentary movies, it feels a little bit quaint now, in the same way that Gone Home feels quaint. It's like, oh, this was of its time. It was maybe interesting then, and now it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I think we are oversaturated with commentary right now in 2025 and starved for actual content to comment on. In the sense of quality, not quantity. We are also drowning in content. But there's not like a monocultural touchstone like there has been in the past. So This felt, of its time, I think, is a great and very kind way to put it.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, how about I do the summary and you can kind of interject with the parts that you thought were perhaps maybe not so good.
Sure.
Oh, no. I was sorry. I mean...
Listen.
I'm sorry I made you watch a Joss Whedon movie is the first thing. I have that in our outline. I need to apologize on air. I didn't know. I didn't know he was involved. It's my fault. I didn't do my research. I'm trying to be an ally, but sometimes that involves standing back and saying I was wrong. I'm gonna let other people who have that lived experience dealing with snarky white dudes who have allegations in their Wikipedia. I will let those people speak for themselves.
I did listen. Actually, I thought in terms of Whedonisms, this was like tolerable Whedon. This felt more like Buffy Whedon than Adventures Whedon to me. So it's fine. Like the Whedonisms, we'll talk about how I felt about the characters. They didn't feel real, but I thought they were fine. It's just that I think everybody hyped this movie up so much for me, and the conclusion that I came to was I would have had way more fun in a packed audience of people laughing and screaming. Watching it by myself in my apartment, I was kind of bored the whole time. And I will also say that this episode is brought to you by Top Care is equivalent to Sudafed, because so if I seem a little low energy, it's because the pressure in my snoot is pushing my brain out my ears. So that also did not help.
And on that note, let's go to the plot summary. So the film opens with these like scientist lab, government looking guys going down in this very like sterile white hallway. And they're talking about, I actually pulled up one of the earlier scripts for this, and because I didn't remember what happened. And they're talking about how like one of their guys, like his wife was installing like baby locks before they got pregnant, and how that's going to like jinx them. And that was a weird way to start this movie.
Does Joss Whedon where did that come from? How do you even go? Okay.
It's a wild opening. I know it's like doing the walk and talk, like let's have a conversation about something innocuous while in setting up the situation for this film. But it was weird. It was very strange. We kind of get the hints at what this movie is going to be. We get some people, they talk about how Stockholm failed. At some point somebody comes up and they're like, hey, Stockholm, the scenario fucked up. It's just us in Japan now. And they're like, well, it always comes down to that, and Japan's got a 100% success rate, blah blah blah. But we're seeing that already. The movie is doing something a little bit different. Any interesting any commentary about the opening of this movie?
They were trying to do like an Odd Couple thing. I don't think it worked. I put in my notes, and I stand by this. They reminded me immediately of the rats from Chicken Run, but with less homoerotic energy. I think if there was more homoerotic energy, it would have been more fun.
Well, again, I have to say this was 2011, so we are just coming out of the it's cool, when you don't like something, you say it's gay part of cinema.
Yeah, but didn't this come out? Hold on. Pacific Rim release date.
Pacific Rim was 2013.
So, same energy. I'm talking.
Sure, but I think the second Obama presidency, I think that's when shit popped off.
Hope 2012 was the thing that really did it.
No, I think Mitt Romney eating shit is what did it, actually. We're like, okay, it's actually fine to be gay now because Mitt Romney bought it so bad.
And you know what? Mitt, I gave you a really hard time in 2012 on the internet. Come back.
Hey, man.
Hey, man, come back.
There's still time. There's still time to join the hashtag resistance.
Help.
If you want to, yeah. Hey, maybe in...
I'll get in the binder. That is a joke for the over 30s in our audience, but I will get in the binder.
Listen, that's a funny joke.
Thank you.
I'm laughing.
I can see that. He's in hysterics. He's pissing, shit, and crying.
Oh, man. That was a long time ago. Anyway, we cut to a college town. The film does open with the actress... Kristen Connolly like in her underwear in front of a window, and like I know that they're doing the thing where it's like, yeah, isn't it so crazy how horror movies always have women scantily clad for no reason? I know that they're doing that intentionally as a way to talk about it, but like this is where we talk about like, okay, is this kind of a satire? Whedon himself has called this like a love/hate letter to horror movies, specifically slashers. But like, at what point are you satirizing the thing if you're just doing the thing, right? Like, I don't know that this is a satire. It's just which is fine. It's fine for women to be hot on screen, but like I don't know that this is very satirical at all. This opening shot of Kristen Connolly.
What is it satirizing? Like, satire has to have a subject, and that's the thing. Is I was thinking about it because this was always described to me as a satire. I was like, okay, but what is it satirizing? This feels more in line to me with you remember all the like 2008, the scary movie, the vampire movie, all the
Vampires Suck, Meet the Spartans, epic movie.
It feels more of a spoof than a satire.
Sure. Right.
And I
because
don't
they're
think
just kind of doing the same thing.
But it's also not like a fully committed spoof.
It's a weird choice, and I think there's room for things to be messy. But I think just starting off the gate, it's like, okay, I don't think this is a satire, right? Because if you're just doing the thing, like, well, I don't know. Well, so let's keep going.
Yeah, I did like. It didn't get like a ha-ha laugh from me, but I did have a little. I did have a little giggle at when Chris Hemsworth comes in and like the other girl comes in and they have like a full conversation and she's in her underwear and the camera just stays really close so that we never see her bottom half until the end of the scene and she like remembers she's not wearing any pants. And I was like, okay, physical comedy, sure.
Yeah, they're kind of doing something with that. But yeah, we get introduced to three of the main characters right here. We have Dana, who is the archetype of like the good girl, right? I have one of the early shooting scripts up, and the script describes her. So Dana Polk, a thoughtful, attractive college sophomore. Her room is like her, restrained and well ordered, but with a few funky touches of color and whimsy. Which, man, I don't read scripts often, but when I do find it is interesting to see how people write. And this is a choice. Anyway, we get introduced to her roommate or friend, Jules, who is blonde now. Apparently she's dyed her hair blonde very recently. And this is a weird thing that just never comes up again. Again, looking over the script, there is a plot line about this professor that kind of like just got dropped. And to be fair, this movie is 90 minutes long. I'm thrilled how short it is. It needed to be. But yeah, there's just this bit where it's like, Dana had like an affair with one of her professors who was married and, kind of being a creep. And there's just like a whole backstory. She has like a drawing of him in her sketchbook. It's so strange. It's such a strange thing in this movie that never pays off. But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about this weird bit?
They must have shot it and then changed the script or something. It's just weird. It's weird that it's in there. I thought the way it was going to pay off is that we were going to, because Dana has to be the virgin. That's the whole point. I thought that the whole thing was going to be that she's not a virgin because she fucked this professor, and like the secret organization just like didn't know because it was such a secret. But at the same time, apparently he dumped her via email, which is a paper trail, and you assume
right.
if they know all the stuff that they already know about the kids, then they would know that if it was in an email. I don't know. I'm working hard to try to make it make sense.
Right. There are just weird parts of this that don't. Like this whole professor plot line for sure, but there are bits that feel completely disjointed.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think that actually works pretty good is when they bring in Chris Hemsworth, right? He comes in and talks to Dana. His character's name is Kurt. He's dating Jules, the blonde pre-med major. They go out of their way to tell everybody like what they're studying because they want you to know that these kids are smart, which I think is funny. But
yeah, listen, You and I have been to college. These get degrees. Your major doesn't necessarily.
I have met plenty of doctors, MDs, that I think are total dipshits. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%.
I've been treated by some that I think are total dipshits.
That's true. Anybody probably has been treated by some. But he comes in and he starts recommending like Russian sociologists to Data, which is very weird.
Sure.
But again, it's like a way to show that he's like a smart guy, but he ends up being the jock archetype. But that's just one way to be like, okay, he's a smart guy. He's well read. Blah blah blah. We also, they're talking about how they're all going to go to this cabin in the woods for the weekend and have like a party. Kurt's brought liquor and they're bringing his football teammate. What's his name? Holden.
Marcus from Detroit Become Human.
I cannot believe you pulled that name from the ether. You haven't even played Detroit Become Human. You listened to
I watched John Wolfe play it.
John Wolfe playthrough, yeah.
Yeah.
But like I did too, and I would not have got that in 100 million years.
It's because I thought he was handsome. That's pretty much.
Yeah. And
I was like, I've seen that beautiful face before.
Yeah, but it's an incredible thing. He does fine in this movie, but I don't know. He's not given a lot to work with.
He doesn't really. Yeah, he does. He doesn't get a lot to do in this feature film that we watched. I had a thought, but yeah, I think you pointing out that they're supposed to be smart is. And again, I'm just like workshopping the script in my head. I wish it was pushed farther, right? Like I wish, it's like in our group of friends, right? We're all nerds, and then we have two people in our group chat that could be like shoehorned into being jocks under the right circumstances. So it's
and those are you and Angela. Michelangelo, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Michelangelo is the jock, right? I could slot in if need be, but it's one of those things where like the jockiness doesn't come naturally. So there is this thing you could do. You get them in the cabin. There's like all sorts of vents and vapors and drugs and shit that aren't explained. You could start to shoehorn them into these archetypes. They started to do that with Dana a little bit, where all of her like outward promiscuity was supposed to be uncharacteristic, but we don't know enough about her for that to have felt weird. So I wish if they were going for this kind of campy deconstruction of like a teen slasher, I wish it was like 5 dweeby normies from like, and they made a point that it was like Yale or Harvard or something. And they end up in this situation and they start getting shoehorned and having these like little parts of their personalities played up all the way until they're kind of unrecognizable to themselves. That I think would have been something. But as things are, it just, this like doesn't read.
Right. And I think there is some, you can, to give this a generous read, you can extrapolate this, right? You get a little bit of this stuff from this opening. But I think you're completely right. Like, if we don't see... Jules doesn't show herself to be, like, kind of a pre-med smarty. I've met and been friends with tons of pre-med kids. They're all a little bit fucking crazy.
You have to be.
And, yeah, and you don't get any of that, like, gunner, like, I have to be, the smartest, best person in the room from Jules here. In a way that I think is a misstep. I think you're right. But, yeah, it is a strange... Again, I'm willing to give the movie a lot of grace because it is trying something new for the time. But yeah, I think you're right that this is maybe not as strong an opening as they could have got.
Yeah, if Kurt's a sociology major, I would have loved for him to be like on the rowing team, like rowing feels right. And then mysteriously throughout the runtime of the movie, he suddenly has a football inexplicably. Like... Instead of him having the football that he's always tossing around from the get-go, right? Like something like that, I think would have been more fun.
Right, absolutely. We also get, Holden does show up, and he's like, he's supposed to be the scholar, but he just seems like a normal guy. We also get Marty, who is the stoner.
I usually hate the stoner character. Marty got me.
Marty's interesting. I mean, one, he's introduced in a really fun way, which is he's like driving his shitty car in. He is hotboxing that shit, and the bong he is using is like 3 feet tall.
And it's a coffee mug.
Right. That's the thing. When he gets out, they're like, man, you're going to get pulled over by the cops. He's like, well, firstly, the cops are too afraid to pull over somebody getting fucking blazed in their car. It's psychically, disruptive to them. Also, and then he like telescopes it down into a little coffee mug. And that's really funny. And that does pay off later when he uses it as a bludgeon to like fight some zombies. I think that's great.
But see, that makes his fucking with electrical wiring at the end more believable to me. I'm like, okay,
Right,
if he
I
has
agree.
constructed like a coffee bong that telescopes into just a coffee mug, then surely he's capable of like hot wiring something, you know?
Right, yeah. I thought most of the stuff with Marty was fine.
Yeah.
For the most part. And I think, to be fair, I think Marty is the character that the authors, the writers like the most. They're like, he's the guy who's seeing through all this shit. I'm going to pull up a quote from the Wikipedia about what Whedon said. Quote, Whedon described the film as an attempt to revitalize the horror genre. He called it a loving hate letter to the genre. Continuing, it's a serious critique of what we love and what we don't about horror movies. I love being scared, blah, 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 blah. The things that I don't like are kids acting like idiots, the devolution of the horror movie into torture porn, and into a long series of sadistic concupiscences. Drew and I both felt that the pendulum had swung a little too far in that direction. So that's what Whedon is doing. He's being like, okay, these people, why are they acting stupidly? And I think this makes sense at the time, but where we are, certainly as people who are trying to understand media, it's like, yeah, man, but they kind of have to act stupid. And I know that that's what this movie is saying. It's like, yeah, they're forced to act stupid by the puppeteers, man. But when you get Marty as this stoner who kind of sees through it all, I do feel like this is the authors being like, I mean, I don't know, that's an ungenerous read, but it does feel like they're like, oh, the stoner guys get it, man.
I'm going to try to be generous to this movie again. And I'm going to try and say, okay, if that's what you were going for, then The Puppeteer should have been a critique of Hollywood. The Puppeteers, instead of being, because their whole gambit is that they have to sacrifice these teens or else the ancient giant gods will wake up and ruin the earth. Fine. But if you're going to say, okay, these kids are being forced to act uncharacteristically and in a way that is detrimental to them and their health and in a way that is unrealistic, then what you should actually be poking fun at is the Puppeteers should be a kind of self-critique of Hollywood execs and writers.
I mean, I think you can absolutely read this film that way. Yeah. Right, when they talk about you have to see the goods, right? Otherwise, the people will be, it's for the audience, right? That's clearly talking about how like horror movies, want to show exploitation, want to show off sexy women because the audience likes that. That I think you could absolutely. And then when you look at them doing all the betting, right? All they care about is money, and they're getting lazy, right? I think you could absolutely be like, and that's Hollywood.
Yeah, there's like snippets of it, or I think the other thing you could play up was maintenance always bets on the zombie redneck torture killers, and moments like that where it's like, oh, the obvious thing is always the thing picked. That could have been played up more. Again, it's just like the breadcrumbs are there, but it's also non-committal that we have to be kind of generous in our reading to get there.
I think we can talk about it later on, but I do wonder if there's a conversation to be had about like whether or not the allegory has to always be that neat. I wonder if there is some.
Not at all. I'm just asking for commitment to a gambit, and I don't think this film commits to its own gambit.
Sure. Basically, we got all the team assembled. They go to, this cabin, but first they have to stop at a gas station. The gas station attendant, is this like racist, creepy guy. He's like, oh, the sign's closed. And he's like, the cabin up there, they have to keep selling it. And, you might be able to get there, but getting back, that's your own concern. And they're like, okay, well, that was fucking weird. And they leave. And then we get the shot of them going to the cabin, and we get the shot of the there's like an eagle that follows them as their truck like drives into the tunnel, and then the eagle hits a force field. And I really like that. And I looked up some trailers for this. That shot of the eagle slamming into the force field is in the trailers, which I think is really interesting because like they had to kind of thread the needle for advertising this movie. And they did, the trailers do suggest that there is something deeper going on there. They show a lot of like the guys flipping the switches and pressing buttons, but they do kind of like try to play it off as like, yeah, there's a slasher film going on here, but there's also something more, which I think is a difficult job for the marketing team. So I kind of commend them for that. But I am glad that they didn't just try, or I don't know. I think it would have been interesting if they had just completely marketed this movie differently than it was, but.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that happened, because if you have you ever seen the Disney or the Pixar movie Brave?
Yes, I have.
Totally different from the marketing campaign, to the point where I think that's why audiences didn't like it at first. But like when I went to see it, it was I really liked it as a film, but I was sitting there, I was like, oh, this is not what I was expecting when I came in, and it's rubbing me the wrong way.
It's not a cool Scottish adventure movie. It's a movie about a mom trying to connect with her daughter.
Yeah, touching mother-daughter story, and nothing about destiny to be seen.
Right. Another thing I'm thinking of is The Bridge to Terabithia, a movie that also was like, hey, let's have a fun action-adventure romp. The saddest movie that I've ever seen.
We can't talk about The Bridge to Terabithia. I have some exquisite middle school memories tied up with that movie that we cannot get into.
I'm sure. Yeah, we won't get into that trauma. But yeah, I just think generally when you're marketing a movie, it's interesting if you try to do the audience subversion, but like you also got to be so careful. And I think they did about as good as they could have with this movie. So.
Oh, but do you remember who? Sorry, pause. Do you remember who was in The Bridge to Terabithia?
Oh, Elle Fanning.
The boy. Do you remember who the boy was?
I feel like I should know.
Josh Hutcherson.
I was gonna say it's PETA, isn't it?
It's J Hutch. Yeah. J Hutch was baby J Hutch.
Yes, shout outs to baby J Hutch hitting on his cool 7th grade teacher and watching his friend get drowned.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Anyway, we then get like cut back to the laboratory as the kids head up to the cabin, the titular cabin. We get some of the lab techs talking about how they've changed the scenario, right? They put the drugs to like alter Jules' behavior in her hair dye, which is fun. They also said that they've been lacing Marty's weed to make him susceptible. And then we also get the scene with the gas station attendant, which I do think is fun. Right, even if this movie doesn't work for you, I think this is a fun bit where the guy is in character and he takes his shit super seriously, and everybody else at the office is like, this fucking dude.
Yeah, Mordecai.
Yes.
Just calling it and getting shit on. Incredible theater kid energy out of Mordecai. Just really going, talking about ruining the invocation, and he's got his whole script. Yeah, it's a fun time. It does smell of Whedon. And I think
I mean, of course.
I think that, it dragged on just a little too long. I think they could have cut a little earlier, but it was a fun little gambit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's neat. I think it's a fun time. From there, we get them arriving at the cabin. They're like, "Oh, this is old and creepy." But then they go swimming in the lake. They investigate their rooms. They also find out, first they see a weird, portrait of some people, mutilating a goat, right? So Holden, the camera is on Holden at this point. So he takes that down, and then he sees the one-way mirror, and he can see into Dana's room. And, it looks like she's about to start getting undressed. And, he looks like he's like thinking about whether or not to watch her get changed. And then he goes and tells everyone like, hey, why is there a one-way mirror here? And then ends up offering to switch rooms with her. So that way she feels a little bit less, creeped on. It's weird. It's a weird scene, I think. I don't know what it doesn't feel like. I mean, it feels like maybe it's trying to do a commentary about like, what's the voyeurism in movies, but like I don't see it. I don't really know what the point is.
I just didn't commit to the bit. It didn't. Also, women that I know, at least, and in my personal experience, we don't make kissy faces in a mirror I've never done that. It's just the thing that stood out to me. It's a weird directing beat of like, hey, lean in and make a little kissy face as you look at yourself in the mirror. Everyone I know makes the ugliest fucking faces in the mirror because we're all trying to adjust mascara and shit and wipe the corners of our mouths if our lipstick is running. Like I don't know. It just
Listen, again, it was probably, I think this movie started shooting in 2009, and Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard. So, like, you know, no women were involved in the writing of this movie.
Yeah, not even writing, just the direction is weird. It's just weird. It's just weird. It's weird and odd, and just, I wish it was either played up for the satire or cut. And it didn't either. It was just a weird middling scene where Marcus from Detroit Become Human stared at some girl getting undressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Weird scene. One scene I do like that comes immediately after this is when they go in the lake, and we do get, you know, this is where the Whedonisms work, I think, where Chris Hemsworth is, you know, he's like, oh, there's something in the water, and it looks like my girlfriend. He pushes Jules in, which I think is really cute. And then he's like, oh no, there's something else in the water. It's a gorgeous man. And then, you know, Jules is like, I'm going to kill you. And he's like, oh no, please don't. I'm a gorgeous man. We're a dying breed. We're endangered.
Yeah.
That's cute. That's fun.
That's where I made my note. These characters are not real people, but they are fun. And that's okay.
And I mean, I think you can level that criticism at certainly any of the Marvel movies that Whedon was involved in. You know, like, they're archetypes, right? And I think that that's the point of the movie, is that they're all character archetypes. We only start to see shades of, you know, we only get glimpses into like more deep character development that you know, we don't really see throughout the film. But you know, I think there is something to be like to set up. I think there's something to be said about the fact that like the film is consciously making them out to be archetypical and
but
shallow.
that's the thing I was trying to comment on earlier, which is like, okay, are they archetypes and we're just running with the fact that they're archetypes, or are they smart kids that are being shoehorned into purposefully archetypical roles for the sake of this ritual by interference from the puppeteers? The movie can't decide.
Yeah.
Why introduce their collegiate backstories if you're not going to do anything with them? Why then make them act like archetypes without interference from the puppeteer? You know, do you see it?
Yeah, no, I don't think you're wrong, right? I think your whole line of criticism, which is that like if the movie wanted to really be about, you know, how horror is manufactured and how, you know, movies, you know, characters in horror movies make stupid decisions, we should see that like actively, that twisting actually happen. And, you know, they basically just slide into their archetypical roles very easily. And I know that's all implied, you know, we see the pheromone mists and shit, but again, you know, you're kind of like cutting to the gun on the mantle. And it's like, wait, hold on. How did that get there?
Exactly. So yeah, but it's a fun scene. I like the lake scene. It's a good time.
Later that night, they all play Truth or Dare. Jules makes out with a wolf head on the wall. Yeah.
Yeah, she sure did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Dana says she'll do a Truth or Dare, but there's like this weird tension. There's like this weird, like, Kurt is like, he'll do a dare. And then Dana's like, wait, it's my turn. She's like, well, I'm skipping you because like first you're going to say you're going to do a dare. And then you're going to chicken out when you do something, you know, that you're not going to do. And you'll end up doing Truth, and then it'll be my turn. So I'll do a dare. And like, again, there are like threads of being like, okay, we're trying to get at that character, you know, that character, like that Kurt, you know, changing from a like kind of nice bookish guy to kind of a jock douchebag. And it does feel weird. Again, I'm willing to give the film grace because like they're telling us that stuff's going on, but it does feel a little bit jarring to see.
Yeah, I think, again, if in my script doctor of the movie that I'm working through as we're having this conversation, I would have had Jules, because she has to die first, I would have had Jules change first, have everybody react to the way she's changing, and then suddenly they go off to, like, make out hornily in the woods or whatever, or she makes out with the wolf head, and like in that moment Kurt gets pheromone sprayed and gets so turned on by it that he starts like, you know what I mean, like it needs to be phased, and it wasn't phased, and so it just kind of was what it was, which is not effective.
Fair enough. When Dana is about to leave, she's like, okay, dare. They pop open a trap door that immediately shows up, and they go down to this basement, and they have a room full of strange artifacts. I really like this artifact room. I think it's such a fun thing to do that fits into the conceit of this movie, where it's like every different, there's like a weird Zoltan machine. There's a music box with a little ballerina. There's a evil pendant. There's the diary, which Dana eventually reads, and there's a conch shell, which we haven't talked about, but there's a running through line of the like scientist guys. He bets on merman apparently every year. He's like, man, I want to see a merman so bad. He is so horny for a merman, and then like, eventually the diary gets read. And later on, he'll cut to him being all disappointed because he's like, fuck, I'm never going to be able to see a merman, which I think is hilarious, actually.
Right. I like the diary reading, too, because it's like, the typical little girl in a cult. And Dana reads it, and Marty's like, don't read the Latin. Then she reads the Latin, and it's like, okay, that's fun. That's, very tropey, very playing it up for the audience. The characters get to interact. I was like, okay, yeah, fine, sure.
Yeah, I like that scene a lot. The people in the lab, hand in their bets. The maintenance wins. Maintenance plus the intern win because the intern went in on zombie redneck torture family. And there's a little conversation that again does feel Whedon-y, but they're like, okay, well here's the thing. Zombies are different than the zombie redneck torture family, completely different species. It's like the difference between witches and sexy witches, which again, it's funny. It's a small joke. I think that bit is appropriately short. I don't think they drag that on long enough, which makes me give it some grace.
I liked it. I liked the little pedantic conversation. I liked the intern jumping up and down when he got to split the pot with maintenance. Great. That's, if the rest of it was like that, thumbs up for me.
100%. So Kurt and Jules go outside because they're horny and they're gonna fuck. We can kind of tell that the pheromones are being like piped in to affect them at this point. Marty makes a comment out loud. He's like, "We are not who we are." He's saying that everybody is acting weirdly. He's like, "Since when does Kurt pull this alpha male bullshit?" And then he's like, "And Jules is pre-med. Like, why is she being?" He calls her a word that like I won't say because things have moved on beyond that point, but it is a variation of the R slur, which is weird.
Yeah.
I don't love that, but like, he's saying like, why is she acting stupid, basically. And then Holden starts to translate the page of the diary, which I think is fun. He's like, yeah, I guess I took Latin in high school for like a couple months, and it's just weird how it all comes back, like again showing how they are affecting him and making him turn into the scholar essentially. It's fine.
Sure.
Right when Jules and Kurt are fucking, Jules takes her shirt off, we get to see her boobs, and then the torture zombies attack. They saw Jules' head off, which is pretty rough. Kurt retreats to the cabin. He warns everyone, and then he's like, "We have to stick together no matter what." Then immediately it cuts to the cameras and the EOC and the lab people. Press a button, they shoot some mist into the air, and then he's like, "Wait, no, we have to split up. Everybody get in your own rooms." And that's a little bit more of like, again, I wish that they were doing that a little bit more to kind of show how they're being manipulated earlier on. We can tell that they're being manipulated, but when it comes to the character archetypes, I think this is a way more direct, way to show that.
Right. Yeah, I like the Home Alone vibes of all the doors closing and shit, and the puppeteers being able to lock them in places. That was fun. I would actually like more of it. Really get into some hijinks, but that's fine. Vents and doors is fine.
Yep. At this point, the technicians mention that the Japanese team failed. We get the classic meme, "The evil is defeated."
I didn't know that's what this is from. That was what that was from.
Yeah, no, it is. Now Kiko's spirit will live in this happy frog.
Oh, I wish that were me.
And then I don't know. I don't think it's not Bradley Whitford. I think it's Richard Jenkins who plays this guy, but he is just screaming "fuck you" at the little Japanese girls, which like is kind of funny. I think it's a little bit of the time. I think the film thinks it's funnier than it is, but it's still kind of like, all right, yeah, I get it.
It was fine. I like that the Japanese scene read a little bit battle royale. I thought that was a nice pull with the school stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I thought it was fine. I like the technicians having fun. That's a highlight for me.
Yeah. They also mentioned that Marty's weed, they missed his stash. In the script, they talk about how Marty had one super secret special stash that he kept secret, so that's how they didn't get it, which is like, okay, sure, whatever. But yeah, his weed is immunizing him to all of the gas and drugs and stuff. So Marty's the only one who can see what's going on. He even discovers a camera in his room, but then one of the zombie torturers shows up and just beats the shit out of him and drags him off and, presumably murders him. And, oh no, Marty's dead, R.I.P.
I was so upset.
I saw in your notes you were devastated. The only character you liked.
The only character I cared about. And I was like, oh no, my little guy.
My foothold. Kurt, Dana, and Holden all retreat to the RV and drive off. There's a bit where they have to, like, the lab techs are like, hey, somebody fucked with the electrical, and they sent a signal down wrong, and we didn't blow the tunnel. We didn't get the message. So I think this is Bradley Whitford who goes and runs down and manually jury rigs the tunnel to explode. At that point, the three remaining people are like, well, shit, maybe we can use Kurt's motorcycle and jump over this little ravine. It's like, I think it's like a 5 foot. It's probably more than that, but he's like, he says like it's like 10 feet, right? It's 10 foot with 5 feet of clearance on the other side, and Kurt, vows to go get help. He, jumps his motorcycle, but then we get the force field. He slams into the force field, and dies. And at that point, they're like, hey, what is happening?
Chekhov's force field. Set up, payoff, clean.
Yep, it's very good. I think it's fun. And it's at that point where Dana's like, oh, Marty was right. Something weird's happening. We're being manipulated. And, Holden and her, they start driving back. Holden's like, we're gonna do something. We're just gonna keep going. And she's like, it's not gonna matter. We've been selected. There's nothing we can do. At that point, Holden is stabbed from one of the zombie torturers. Their RV like flies into the lake. And then, Dana tries to survive. She swims out of the RV. She gets to the top, and then there's like a montage of, because at this point, all of the necessary people are dead. So all the people at the lab are celebrating, and we just like get this like montage of Dana just getting absolutely pummeled as everybody's partying, but like we see her getting beaten up on the screen, which is, I know I think it's a funny. Is it funny? I mean, I don't know. I don't like when women get beat up. You can quote me on that, but the joke. I understand what the joke is doing, and it's fine.
Yeah. If the rest of the movie was more slapstick, I think it would have worked better. But it was fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's and at this point, everybody's having a good time. We see them all getting drunk. One of the guys, I think it is Gary. Gary talks to the maintenance guys, and he's like, "Hey, something fucked up the signal." And then he's like, "Wait, that's weird. What do you mean the signal came from upstairs?" And then the red phone on the wall starts ringing. Gary goes to answer the phone. It's like, "Oh, everybody turn the music off. Something's wrong." And right before Dana is killed, Marty shows up. Marty has somehow survived. Apparently, he disemboweled the zombie with a trowel, which, sure, go off, King.
Sure.
But he saves Dana. Together, they find an elevator that goes underneath the cabin, and they come into the chamber, the menagerie. What did you feel about the menagerie?
Fine, cool.
Oh, you didn't like the menagerie?
I had no particular feelings about the menagerie.
Oh.
It was, a lot of fun little monsters. I liked the worm-faced ballerina. That was fun. And the guy with the saws in his face. That was fun. But
yeah, it's like a pinhead.
By that point in the movie, I was just kind of over it. So I was like, okay.
I'm sorry. I'm disappointed you didn't like that because I love it. I love a menagerie. You know, I love when there's a bunch of different monsters in boxes and it's like, ooh, look what we have in store for you. And apparently there was tons of practicals on this. Apparently they did a lot of really great practical work. So
I guess with the close-up ones, because there's a giant snake later, clearly CGI.
Okay, that one was not practical. But you know, let's see. The quote from Wikipedia is, we had nearly 70 people at peak, but in effect we had 140 people because everybody had at least 2 jobs. Concerning the sheer number of creatures to be designed and made for the film, AFX Studios' David Leroy Anderson estimated that close to 1,000 people were turned into one of around 60 different monster types. So I'm sure that AFX studio is, you know, CGI to some degree, but it seemed like they also did a decent amount of practical. So that's neat.
Love a practical, cool shit.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you know, they see all the monsters. Dana realized that they've been manipulated, and you know, they almost get captured. They instead release all the monsters. Again, I think that's a fun scene, right? I think this is the movie just kind of, you know, I think that's a really neat bit where, like, the SWAT team is closing in on them, and then all the elevators go ding at the same time, and then just they just get pulped by a bunch of different weird horror monsters. I think that's such a fun shot.
Yeah, there's just blood everywhere, and you know, there's a guy that falls from the rafter guts first at some point. Fun stuff.
Yeah, it's a fun time. But eventually they Dana and Marty go down to, like, the secret ritual chamber, and they find basically the 5 stone slabs that have the character archetypes on them. And then Sigourney Weaver shows up. And Sigourney Weaver is like, hey, we need you to kill him, Dana. If you could do that for us, that would be great, because otherwise the world will end and the big, giant, ancient ones will destroy everything. And Dana briefly considers shooting Marty, but then a werewolf attacks her, and then Marty kills the wolf. And then the last torture zombie kills Sigourney Weaver. So it's all fine. And then Dana and Marty smoke a joint, and they let the world end.
They sure did.
Yeah. That's what happens.
Yeah, you've done it. You've summarized the film.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know there's a whole lot to say. I think we've talked a lot about it, but, like, I think it's hard to say anything interesting about meta art. And maybe, I don't know if it's these days because we are just, like you said earlier, so saturated in content, or because in, like, the 2010s in particular, there were just a ton of meta commentary art that you know, was all over. So, you know, even Frozen to some degree does this. But I'm thinking about, like, Homestuck. I'm thinking about Undertale, Stanley Parable, Doki Doki Literature Club, right? These are all, you know, narratives or games that are trying to talk about, you know, the medium that they're in. And at a certain point, you know, when all these media come after Cabin in the Woods, and when you look back on Cabin in the Woods, it's like, oh, well, this is a little, you know, tame.
Tame. That's how I feel about it. It's just tame. It's not doing anything that innovative. It's a fun core comedy you can watch with your friends, put it on in the background at a Halloween party. You know, if someone put this movie on, I wouldn't turn it off. It's fine. I thought the actors turned in great performances for how little they had to work with. But yeah, I agree. I don't think there's anything much to say about, like, specifically 2010s meta commentary that hasn't been said before. Or that we haven't even said before on this fucking podcast, right? We've been doing this for so long. Again, I'm a little sudafed, you know, I'm a little low energy. I thought it was a fine movie, but it's just very of its time and very
Yeah. I think it's an interesting time capsule. I am disappointed you didn't like it as much as I did. I seem to be a little bit higher on it.
Well, now you know how it feels. I feel like we've hit a streak of, like, surely this person will like this thing.
Yeah, I don't know. We don't have to go over all of Mortified, but, you know, we've had a difficult year, just energy wise, I think.
What? No, the world is great. The
And
world is great.
there's no external reasons for that.
There's no external reasons for us to be low energy. I have had a great normal time with no disruptions. You haven't had anything major happening, which is great. You know, we've just been very stable and normal and fine.
Yeah. Okay. How about we, for our marketing minute, we try to tell a meta story without making it boring, trite, or cliche? What is the Mortified? How do we do this?
It's the year of the podcast, baby. You know what I mean?
Oh?
We gotta. Do we do another? What's that one? What's that movie where everyone is in on the fact that it's a TV show or a movie, but the main guy doesn't know it?
I know what you're talking about. I've just never seen it.
Me either. Put that on the list.
The Truman Show.
Yeah. So what if we like Truman Show, but the Truman is Joe Rogan?
Say more.
Sometimes I just say words that I have no more to say after.
No, I like the idea of a podcast host that doesn't know he's a podcast host. This is really good material.
Yeah, he's a podcast host, and like he just doesn't know that everyone around him is constantly wearing a wire, and they're asking him leading questions. And then they just, you know, it's like that MTV reality show or whatever the fuck network that was on Average Joe or whatever. I'm making deep cultural pulls right now.
I didn't have cable until about 2007, so...
Or Joe Schmo. Oh, I didn't watch it on cable. I just watched a lot of commentary videos about media in the 2010s.
Sure.
Yeah, so, you know, I think... But it's like, it's got to be somebody who thinks very highly of themselves and their opinions, and somebody who thinks they're like the average American, you know?
Mm-hmm. What's the twist? Is this a satire? Are we trying to be like, and this is what podcast people are actually like?
I think if we want to workshop a message, I think the thing I would love for this movie to do is to tell people they don't need to have an opinion on everything. And actually, it's okay to just say, I don't know sometimes.
That would be interesting. That would be kind of fun to have a character who is constantly feeling like people are asking him, and because he is asking people and not getting any sort of weird pushback, people are just like, yeah, great, say more. Similar to the Joe Rogan show, is my understanding.
Joe Rogan, you know, is a complicated figure in American pop culture. I don't think anyone needs to have 3 hours of opinions on anything per week, or however the fuck long this show is.
There's a reason that Mortified has never exceeded 2 hours. It's because we just don't have that much to say. We know that we don't have that much insight.
Yeah, we're just your basic average girl, and we're here to save the world. You know, that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the new Mortified season 8, whatever.
7.
Fucking season 7 next year tagline.
Yeah. Isn't that fucking batshit bananas? Season 7.
That is crazy that we've been doing this long. And we'll. Y'all, we hashed out our end of the year schedule, and let me tell you, the end of the year episode is going to kill us.
Yeah, well, it'll kill us less than certain other things that we've attempted.
That's true. Leyla, when we are not providing maybe a little bit lower energy than we'd like to be, but, you know, still interesting takes on...
Last week's episode was 2 fucking hours long on Star Wars. We deserve a break.
That's true. We did do a long-ass Andor one, didn't we? When we are not just squeezing our youth into a little bowl for you all to sip upon, where else can we be found on the internet?
You can find me at LEYLSES on Blue Sky and Tumblr. I am starting my new job tomorrow. Yay, I survived. Woo! But I'm still working on starting my YouTube channel, where I am working on my script for my Final Fantasy X talk, and that's mostly, I don't know, no promises. Man, I'm just doing my best out here. I had something to say and I can't remember what it is anymore. Oh, yeah. The Sabres are back, baby. Woo! We're going to do it this year. We're going to go to the playoffs. First time in 14 years.
No comment on the Buffalo Sabres' ability to go to the playoffs.
We're going to go.
You can find me on Blue Sky at aavoigt, Tumblr at Monster Factory Fanfic. But my main site is aavoigt.com, where I talk about games and writing. I also have a YouTube channel that's at aavoigt, where I talk about tabletop games and occasionally do media essays, video essays, whatever you call those things. Probably won't have one out until the end of the year, but I hope it will be very useful to the field of tabletop gaming generally. But we will see about that in 2 months if we survive that long. Our theme song is Obsolete by Keshko from the album Filmmakers Reference Kit Volume 2. You can find more of their music at keshko.bandcamp.com. Leyla, how shall we shut the door to this cabin in the woods?
Well, Aaron, I'm not sure it's awesome to be down here.
We'll see you all next time.